This is the Jim Nog Pod with Jim Nogara. It is the Jim Nog Pod with Jim Nogara.
Most interested man
It is the
in the
Jim
world.
Nog
Interested,
Pod with Jim Nogara.
the most interested man
Jim
in the
Nog Pod.
Interested,
It is the
interested.
in the world.
Welcome to the pod. This is Jim Nog. It's been a minute. I want to start by saying that I truly appreciate you, the audience, for sticking with me through my inconsistencies. I recently took some time off to reflect. The podcast is a one-man show, my show. Any support, even comments, are greatly appreciated. One thing I have learned is that I like and will continue to talk with my friends. As I develop and grow the podcast, I will invite many others as well. So far, I'm having a lot of fun, and in the end, that's what it's all about. On this episode, my conversation with Marcos de Jesús de la Guagua. Marcos is a good friend and has been on the show many times and needs little introduction. So here's a short and sweet one. Marcos de Jesús de la Guagua is an artist, most notably a singer, rapper, and dancer. He has roots in Milwaukee, the Bronx, Puerto Rico, and Pomerania. He's also a licensed New York City tour guide and is a virtual artist in residence at tlcofnyc.org. His compositions have been presented by What a Neighborhood and Annabella Gonzalez Dance Theater. We had a hoot discussing his newest project, the Erstwhile Shuffle, a motet or short sacred piece encompassing various characters and genres, all anchored on the existential angst of modern life and the inevitability of death. We talked about the meaning behind music for him, coping with anxiety in modern life, why there's a dance challenge associated with the project, meaning in the finiteness of existence, the state of contemporary hip hop, and more. We also listened to various parts of the aforementioned work. I think it's dope. It's funny, quirky, silly, hip hoppy, meaningful, emotionally impactful, and just well good. Thank you again for listening. I hope you enjoy. And now my conversation with Marcos de Jesús de la Guagua. Hey, everybody, welcome to another episode of Jim Nog Pod. I am joined with Marcos de Jesús de la Guagua.
Hi, Jim. Good to see you, brother.
Likewise. We're here to talk about your project, the Erstwhile Shuffle, which is really cool, and we're going to listen to the whole thing, and we're going to talk about it. That will be sort of the meat of the conversation, and I'm excited to talk about it. And it's really cool and fun. It really your personality and your wit and all of that, your musical talents really show in it, and so we are going to talk about that. But I kind of want people to be a little bit more familiar with you, and I just want to ask you one question to sort of just highlight you and who you are. And the question basically is, you are a musician, and I'm a writer, and I'm curious, what does music mean to you? How profound is it to you? Do you think that it's something that we need? Is it something that we can maybe live without, but maybe wouldn't want to? Like, what is the value of music for you?
Hey, man. Well, thank you for that question. And I think like it's hmm, for me, if I it's hard for me to answer that question just about myself. I think it's also important as a broader public question. What is the value of music in general? And for me, I think it's hard to answer because it's oxygen. You know, it's more effective. It's the probably most available and effective tool for managing my moods and processing my thoughts I that I breathed in. You know, I inhaled from in my community. I was raised up by singing people, you know, and among a singing people. And so at home, at church, choirs, wherever there was an opportunity, and and also in random places, and in the car, on any space that was echoey, there would usually be some singing happening. So yes, the shower. And yeah, so for me, that's sort of what music is. And the whole question of like, I remember when did you ever take like a basic Spanish class?
In high school, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I remember one of the basic, like, have a conversation with the person next to you. And one of the basic questions you could ask them was, ¿A ti te gusta la música?
Do you like music?
Yeah. And I was like, what? What? Right? Like, do people say no? And what's wrong with them if they do? And I mean, I don't want to project that really to other people, but that's how I reacted when I heard that question. I think in middle school, right? And I think what we find is that we do need music. And yeah, and since it's a need, you know, that's what was weird about it. Like, why would you put it in terms, if you say do you like it, it seems like it's in the realm of wants, you know, and not needs. And the reality though is that I think our relationship with music is very alienated and mediated in ways that are limit the amount of life-giving sustenance we get from music. And so something that I think a couple of ways that Marcos de Jesús de la Guagua is a vocation held lightly with a sense of humor to spiritual struggle, right? I see myself as pushing the edges of the way that music is in the way that people engage the genres that I connect to, you know, and really wanting to, for myself as a creator and somebody who's performing it, right, to have an experience of catharsis, as much of an emotional range as I can attain, you know, and yeah, a good cry, a good laugh. That's I kind of want that in every song, both, you know, or definitely across an album, you know, or across a
Sure.
concert. And the so like think of Don't Be an A-hole, for example, right? It's like very,
One of your songs.
yeah, and that song, without having any curse words, it gets like pretty crude actually. And and then at the end there's like this earnest apology.
Yeah, I love that part. Yeah.
Thank you. No, go ahead. Was there something you wanted to say about it?
It's a touching song that's like, it's playful and it's funny, it's just like, don't be an a-hole. Don't be an a-hole. Nobody likes a jerk. And I'm not doing justice to the song, but that's kind of,
Fine.
the words. And then there's this middle part that I actually, when I listen to it, it feels very I feel like this is the Marcos that I know, and then this I'm connecting to something that is it's this deep emotional expression, and and that's what music is. And I swear I was having a dream this morning, and I have this dream. It's a recurring dream. It's a dream that I'm singing. I can't sing to save my life, but it's a dream that I'm singing, and I feel this beautiful feeling, and it's hard to describe. And I just know that when I'm singing, I'm reaching sort of this level of the expression of, my soul. I'm using that term loosely. It's not something that I believe, but the expression of my spirit, of my soul.
You're dreaming it. You can't, you know what I'm saying? You can't, it's not your choice. This is in your dream, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not saying I'm seeing my spirit, but you know what I'm saying. Like,
okay.
I'm expressing this feeling at this level of being that I can't normally tap into, and like music seems to be a gateway to that. And I don't know. It feels like you're more in touch with that than I am, obviously. But it's weird because I have this dream. Just as a little bit of background, I was the singer for one or two bands, but these were heavy metal bands, and it was mostly screaming. It was like the new metal era.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Anyway, no, but I don't know if that connects to what you're saying.
No, absolutely. That takes it to a whole other level. Because I was gonna say that I think what I'm consciously pushing towards is catharsis, try and share an experience of catharsis with whatever communities participating in the music. Having a sense of, or building folklore, participating in folklore, and that we could have a whole conversation about what that means. But the big thing is, I think you don't consume folklore. There's no consumers, and there's not really even an audience, right? That it's participatory, right? And then sort of pushing at the, I need to chill on this because this slows down my process a ton, but I'm, trying to see how far I can reach. I'm pushing at my technical limits of expression, where like that's very disincentivized in streaming, in the streaming economy. The optimal is to put out, lots of short tracks that sound pretty similar. So, people, so the algorithm will know what to do with you, but I think that all those things that I'm pushing against are mildly toxic. Water with just a little poop in it is a metaphor that keeps coming to my brain. But yeah, like this whole unintentional experience of music where the algorithm is deciding what you listen to, and the things that it tends to drive you towards, this consumption experience, this sort of emotional monotone, you know, and very narrow technical, very narrow range of expressions, you know, like your band. How many emotions did you have?
Like angry. That was about it.
It's a good start. It's a good start.
I mean, it's a good energy, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I mean, a lot of things are. I think, actually, Metallica kind of talked about this a bit. And I had on a whole album about like anger and how it's healthy, and you know, you want it to be healthy. You don't want it to control you. You don't want it to change you. You can, you know, it's really it's a statement about emotion in general, right? Like emotions are powerful, you know, but we need to know how to wield them. Otherwise, they wield us.
Yeah.
So we're here to talk about Erstwhile, and I can't wait to start doing that. So, is there anything you want to say as like a preamble to it, or should we jump right in?
I think we can pretty much jump right in. I will just say shouts to my man Gonzo Jones. It's built off of his beat, aka DJ Dash, and so we've generally been collaborating on this mind game project that Jim contributed a remix for also.
Yeah, I did contribute a little bit to I guess a remix of one of your songs, and it's not what I do. I just want people to understand, because sometimes I get like producers following me on Instagram and stuff, and I'm not a producer. I did do it for like a year for fun to learn, and I learned a lot. And I'm just happy to have contributed, and people could listen to that.
So this Erstwhile Shuffle is volume 2 of the Mind Game project. Your remix is intended to be on volume 3, which is a mixtape. And the thing that I'm working on the most is trying to figure out how I can have the most productive workflow, right? So I'm not sure when part 3 is coming out, but let's just start with the single, and it's a pretty straight ahead rap song, right? And then with one caveat, it's a straight ahead rap song. It sounds like the one thing you think you're clear on when you hear this sort of weird, quirky beat and guy who's sort of rapping and sort of talking. You think this is, what I know for sure is that this is not a song with an old school jump up and down shouting chorus. You'll have to test that assumption. Okay, that's what I would say. That's the only thing that's weird about, or surprising about this song, this part of the song. And then it spiraled out into a broader motet, which I would say, which is sort of a micro opera. It spiraled out into this broader drama.
I wonder why it is even brainy rappers still claim street status in terms we should not use with our grandmas. How can music be a blessing if we constantly curse? Prophetic poets manifesting things are sure to get worse. Oh well. Call me a cursed bat bastard, pretend that I'm plastered, strung out by this game of copyrights and masters. I beat a whole board but can't defeat the big boss. I'm always dying, like the Jesus on my cross. I keep spending quarters, losing lives, I lost track. Which ones are the bad guys? My joystick's meant to make us fly. Johnny 5, stay alive. Cause I'm an undercover soul brother, secret agent, proto-pagan, getting deep like Carl Sagan, intellectual intercourse, Jesus freak, without remorse. And my rhymes are nasty, my rhymes are gross. My loved ones call me Marquitos. My rhymes are silly, my rhymes are sick. I combine her anxiety with his panic. My rhymes are nasty, my rhymes are gross. My loved ones call me Marquitos. My rhymes are silly, my rhymes are sick. I combine her anxiety with his panic. Her anxiety and his panic. Her anxiety. Panic! Entonces, if you're up in the Bronx and you see a dude running with like 2 bags and a suit coat, please remember, don't get in the way of a dude who's running in a suit coat. Ain't nobody desperate like this guy running in a suit coat. He ain't a guy who likes to rush. He'd rather be a slowpoke. He likes to take his time, be well-groomed, dress nice. He runs believing he's running for his life. When he shouts, "Excuse me," don't make him say it twice. I'm probably just late and need the train, but that's what it feels like. I get road rage from walking, high off of talking. I got a calling, don't be collar blocking. So mad that the crazy people laugh at me. So hard up that the homeless help me. So sick, the sinners bless me while the saints caress me. Don't try to stress me. Saved by grace, so well, don't impress me. And my rhymes are nasty, my rhymes are gross. My loved ones call me Marquitos. My rhymes are silly, my rhymes are sick. I combine her anxiety with his panic. My rhymes are nasty, my rhymes are gross. My loved ones call me Marquitos. My rhymes are silly, my rhymes are sick. I combine her anxiety with his panic. And the erstwhile shuffle. Let's do the erstwhile shuffle. Made by a couple of roommates at home. Trying to get free on the ones and the twos and the microphone. This is the erstwhile shuffle. Somebody whisper. Here in the erstwhile.
I assume everybody needs to calm down from all the jumping up and down you did on the shout along, jump up and down rap chorus that you were not expecting.
I heard the song before, so I kind of was expecting it, but I was not expecting it the first time. This is cool, man. Why don't we start with you explained this to me before, but like the term erstwhile, when I look it up, it just says like boring stuff. So it's like let me just get the dictionary definition. It just says former, adjective, or adverb, formerly. What is the erstwhile, and why does it make you want to hip and hop?
Excellent, bro. That's awesome. Thank you, Professor Noguera from the Department of Hip and Hop Studies. I think so now, for more insight on that, I think is a good time to go to track 3 from the 4-part version that you can find on marcosdelaguagua.com. And I think the professor who narrates that section will give us more insight.
This is the Erstwhile Shuffle.
Dance break, do the Erstwhile Shuffle. You don't know what that is? Okay. The basic instructions come from these guys. Dance, dance, dance. What it is simple. Why it is profound. It has 2 elements, the Carlton on both sides and a space for free improvisation in between. Like so. Carlton left, improv, improv, Carlton right, improv. Now you know about the dance, but what about its aboutness? The Erstwhile Shuffle embodies the movement from what was to what may be. Don't stop dancing. This is time for multitasking. You gotta learn the content and the meaning at the same time, the doing and the being. When you see life from midlife, you notice how your view of start and end mostly depends on where and when your perceptions begin. The erstwhileality of the dance may be found in that it has no clear start or end point, or in the dated reference to a broadcast network television sitcom from the 1990s, or in the awareness that we are all going to die. In the erstwhile, we improvise, shake out all that if and but, and do the erstwhile shuffle. Do the erstwhile, do the erstwhile, do the erstwhile shuffle. Do the erstwhile, do the erstwhile.
Somebody whisper.
Shake out all that if and but, do the erstwhile shuffle.
So did that make it less clear or more clear?
That definitely has some clarification. Yeah. I mean, yeah. So what I understand, I'll just go with what I understand and then just ask you what I don't.
Please do.
So based on the lyrics, I get the sense that the erstwhile is well, it's life. It's what we're in the middle of. It's I sense in the lyrics and throughout the whole piece, there's like an existential angst, or as you say, angst, in the thing, and I feel that. I feel that that aesthetic, and it's, but you attack it in a way that's like so not Edvard Munch, the Scream, like, where it's terrifying and it looks like the world is ending. But it's funny, and it's reflective, and it's anxious, but it's self-aware, and so I dig that. I dig the way that you sort of attack that subject. I guess initially I was thinking maybe Erstwhile had something to do with, given the definition, like a life before maybe the next one, at least from a spiritual point of view. Does that play any role in I mean, obviously, you have your beliefs. You're always dying, like the Jesus on your cross.
Jesus, back there.
R.I.P. Um, probably wasn't the most appropriate thing to say.
But think about it, right? So what condition is the Jesus on my cross in, though? If he's always dying, you know
The Erstwhileness.
yeah, he's sort of, yeah, right, he's sort of perpetually in this liminal, and for me it's a sign of hope and God, solidarity with humanity in the most dramatic way possible. And right, because and this is a major question in Christianity. We the cross is pretty much a universal symbol in Christianity, but is there a Jesus on the cross or not? Is there a body, a human body, um, that is, we understand as the Word of God made flesh on that cross? And I've had a range, people have a range of ways of thinking about that and responding to it. And I know I have through my life, but I certainly have come to um, that sense of finding some relief, either both in times of profound suffering, in my lowest times. I've this feeling of Jesus being with me, but like not just like patting me on the back, but like on the cross with me in my lowest times. I found I've experienced as encouraging. And then also when it may be based on a true story that sometimes there's a guy running with 2 bags and a suit coat in many parts of the Bronx because he's probably just late and needs the train. So like, I think, St. Paul in the New Testament very openly says that the cross is absurd. The idea that God connects with humanity, that the God of the Bible would do that, would allow that to happen to the Word made flesh, to God's self. That's absurd. And the good news about that, though, is that human life, I think, is pretty absurd a lot of the time, right? And there's this whole tradition of Christian existentialism, that starting with Kierkegaard, that really celebrated and recognized that the notion that the God of the Bible isn't just with us, hasn't just entered into these very clear moral questions of human history, and especially these public moral questions, like Moses saying, "Let my people go, let my enslaved people go," to Pharaoh. That God's entered into me running with 2 bags and a suit coat, trying to figure out how sweaty I'm going to be by the time I get to the train. And yeah, God has entered into the absurd, into the banality with us.
You make references to her anxiety and his panic, references to existential angst as you described. And I know part of the answer based on just me knowing you and as a person of faith as you are, but what do you think the purpose of our anxiety is, and how bad do you think it is, and how do you cope, and how do you think we cope? Those were a lot of questions, but
Yeah.
if you can address some of them.
Well, I think I found the analysis that, you know, anxiety is the fight or flight, our bodies fight, our body mind really connected as one, fight or flight system misfiring. And my therapist said to me, like, anxiety isn't being scared when you're being eaten by a 350-pound tiger. Anxiety is as you're fighting off the tiger, worrying, oh man, if I survive this, I'm gonna have to get a rabies shot. um, and when you just have enough of that in the background, you know, over time, either anxiety is about, that's not to say that anxiety is just being afraid of silly, unimportant things. It may relate to very important things, right? But it's the misfiring of the fight or flight system, and especially when it just, it's like, you know, you ever experienced like a broken alarm, you know, that just keeps going off, you know?
Yeah, I probably have. Yeah.
You know, yeah. It's kind of like that, but usually, yeah. So those are some things I associate with anxiety, and I think it's been a big part of my experience, and I didn't even understand that it was, didn't even recognize it until the last few years with the therapeutic process. And I think the other thing I'd say, though, that that's why I want music, and I want to share music, and I want to make music that has this amplitude of human experience to it, because like because on the one hand, yeah, because I think we need that, because music can help with anxiety. Music can help with catharsis. And then on the other hand, like you could say what this song does, or what the epic, the larger version does, is sort of track the same emotions through different settings and kind of different speakers, you know? And yeah, so for me, it was interesting what the dance party, etc., is
At all.
at all, yeah, or Bronx Overthinker Society at all.
EGIE. It just needs more Latin.
It needs more. It needs more. Always more. That, yes, Latin flavor. That's what we're bringing here. Mi gente, mi gente académica. So yeah, because I on the one hand, this is a serious dance challenge. That what the guy is describing, it exists. I put videos on my social media explaining how to do this dance, and I hope everyone records like 8 counts of themselves doing this dance, and it will get compiled together into a video sometime soon. Workflow. But I just thought it was, you know, I am a dancer actually, but I felt very self-conscious about, like, all right, let me try to bring my dancing into my rapping. And then also, you know, I feel I'm like, am I rapping? Spend a lot of time practicing and writing and perform. I guess I'm a rapper, you know, like all those identities seem complex for me. Yet it is who I am. And and I just thought it was cool So the character who hosts the dance, party, etc., is roughly like one part you, one part me, and one part the director of the program where I studied or got my bachelor's in dance. And the particular thing was that that whatever we were talking about, it could become a form of the word could become itty, right? The what was it? The percussionality of the music or something like that. I don't. You could follow up with an explanation of what you're doing with grammar there and if it makes sense or not. I'm not sure what it is, but I remember hearing that, and the other thing was that when there's this sort of postmodern thing that relationship with meaning that was present in the discourse when I was studying dance in college, where they wouldn't there just wasn't a term that the academicians were comfortable with to talk about the meaning of dance. And so like you could say, well, what's the theme of this dance, or what are some emotions that are evoked by this dance? Any number of ways you could engage it. But there was so much deconstruction that none of those terms were really accepted by our professors. So the director of the program, what she said was, now I'd like us to discuss the aboutness of those 16 counts. Okay. It's a very hard thing to do. Like you would see like, what's the core of the aboutness in that phrase?
I think I would have failed dance.
Yeah, it was.
No, I definitely would have failed dance. I mean, if I can't get the intellectual part, I'm definitely not going to get the kinesthetic part for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Interesting answer. I mean, yeah, it's just a fact of life. The anxiety is part of the erstwhile, as you put it, and
yeah.
And music is certainly an outlet, and art, in general,
and movement in general, even whether or not you're thinking of it as dancing, right? Movement. We need to move.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you about your suit coats. You have a certain style, you have a certain flavor, and
I can't do this anymore and just freak out and not be. I injured myself slightly, so in the next time I'm on the jig knob part, I might have like a one of those protective collars,
neck brace. Yeah,
neck brace. But I'm just gonna keep stretching it out, and hopefully it'll be fine. Go ahead, Jim. What was that question?
Is there a I love your suit coats. In fact, you're wearing one on the website.
Indeed.
Is there something to that? Is there a backstory? Is there something to it? Do you feel like it gives you an edge, or is it a throwback to, the sort of that old school Latin sort of caballero thing that my abuelo, who's was Dominican. He's deceased now, but always wore long sleeves, never wore shorts. He's one of those old school dudes.
See, in DR too, he would in the hot climate, he would yeah.
No, you would never catch him with shorts, a t-shirt. No.
Yeah. Bueno, yeah, it's caballerismo for me, which is yeah, even though yeah, which is the vocation, right? Marcos de Jesús de la Guagua. So caballerismo would literally mean horsemanship, right? But it connotatively means guaperia, right? Like, so guaperia would be like, it's like pretty boyness, really, right? Handsomeness, but like guaperia as a what is it? It's like it's a pastime, right? But I was really I think I'm very yeah. So the notion of Sukkot is sort of a common person's, and I say common person because there are a ton of them for sale for like $10 at lots of thrift stores in our modern era of abundance, right? But it's actually accessible to common people's kind of superhero outfit to me. I do think there's, I forget if I ever actually read anything about this, but it seems likely that there's a relationship between the suit, the business suit, and a suit of armor. And I put right, of caballeros, of knights, because caballero, if I didn't say it clearly, connotatively means knight. And I think this, so yeah, I observed that from my father. Like, he's in this, his life has been in this line between being working class and being intellectual, between like the church and politics in many ways, but like when he really needed to be listened to, he always put on Mr. Coat,
Mm-hmm.
And then I think I really had that impression impressed on me when I studied bomba in Puerto Rico. Took a semester out of college to concentrate on that, and I put this on because you talked about your abuelo, right? Abuelo Dominicano. You were mentioning just now, right?
Yeah, Jose
Yeah.
Duran.
See, and but I was very struck by how the patriarch of the main school where I studied, Modesto Cepeda, he would suit up for a baile de bomba, for a real a performance. Like if there's going to be sort of a public or an audience, he would it was a white suit. He would traditionally wear white, so it worked, and it was lightweight, but he'd have his suit coat, and he taught us that la bomba puertorriqueña es un baile de cortés. It's a proud dance, yeah, and cortés literally, could descend from corte, right? It's a court dance, So, and there definitely is, and he was a black man claiming that, he's a black Puerto Rican claiming his what he had to teach, his family's tradition, as central to Boricua identity, to Puerto Rican identity, and as noble, and there's significant evidence that doesn't just come from a European influence in bomba, which Modesto would claim also proudly, that bomba, he would say, has influences from Europe and from Spain and from Borinquen, pardon me, from Africa, from Europe, and from Borinquen. But also bomba is likely descended from Akan court dances in modern day Ghana. And yeah.
I thought you were going to say bombs.
Well, that's probably not a coincidence. So, but the specific etymology is probably related to a word for drum in Akan languages. So bomba, sort of like that. I think I'm not sure how it's pronounced. I've only read it, and it probably meant like the big drum, the bomba. But bomba was associated and utilized to organize rebellions of enslaved people. So the bomb, literally in Spanish, bomba would mean bomb. That probably was not, unintentional either.
This is an education. I appreciate all of that. And actually, this segues really well into what I wanted to ask you next. You studied dance. A big part of the Erstwhile Shuffle is the dance. It's the dance challenge. So why the dance challenge? What sort of inspired you to do it? And you kind of, implicitly, you've implied, but yeah, why the dance challenge?
Yeah, well, because, so the part that came from DJ Dash, DJ Gonzo Jones, that is, was the most of the electronic elements of the beat and the title. He gave me that title, and he actually, as it turns out, had the wrong definition of erstwhile. He thought it meant, I forget what he thought it meant, but as soon as I was reflecting on that title, I liked the beat a lot, and as I reflected on that title, so dance is in there, and then if I thought of the phrase, I don't know where it's from, I'm sorry, I haven't looked this up, but I know I heard it from a pretty young age. Shuffle off this mortal coil.
Yeah, that's Shakespeare. Yeah,
That's
that comes from
yeah.
Hamlet. That's part of the soliloquy, the famous soliloquy. To be or not to be, that is the question. Whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or to take arms against a sea of troubles and by opposing end them. That's all I got, but it's a beautiful soliloquy.
Beautiful. Yeah. So yeah, shuffle off, and yeah, man, Shakespeare, sometimes it's hard for me to follow, but it leaves these little word worms, I guess, in my, like people say, earworms with melodies, these little kernels in my brain. Yeah, and I didn't even realize that was the source. But yeah, so I thought of shuffle off this mortal coil, and the when I tried taking philosophy in college, I dropped it after a couple of classes. The approach wasn't going to be meaningful for me, but they asked us to give a definition. What do you think the definition of philosophy should be on the first class? And I wrote, the improvisation and beliefs that make life more meaningful in the moment. And yeah, I kind of stand by that.
I like it.
And thank you. And for me, that's very akin to that's a dance. Sort of hearing the music of life, and trying to find a move, trying to find your move.
There's a lot of continuity, and I'm really impressed by the depth of metaphor, um, the content, the literary rhetoricalness of the piece. Um, and you mentioned shuffle. Um, there's this line. I think maybe we should play it, but I think it's in the last part.
Well, you could just play that. You could play that part, yeah, and then maybe we won't play the first movement, so the audience still has something new to hear.
Cool. Yeah, let's listen to the last part. That will be a good segue into sort of my question.
Here in the erstwhile, back in the erstwhile, we gotta shuffle and struggle till we shuffle of this mortal coil.
All right. So I believe the line is.
Should I say it?
Oh yeah, you said.
So it's here in the erstwhile, back in the erstwhile, we gotta shuffle and struggle till we shuffle off this mortal coil.
Right. So it's a clear reference to, well, to death, right? The finiteness of life, and there's movement, and the erstwhile, this life sort of, there's anxiety and movement and struggle, and that's meaningful. But I feel like that post shuffle is also very meaningful, and I wonder how much death or the finiteness of life motivates you as an artist, or just as a person. How much do you think about it? How do you reflect on it? How does it inspire you? And if you could, and you can choose if you want to respond to this or not, but do you think it's different for non-believers, because you are a person of faith, but other people don't? Do you feel like this existential angst is maybe relieved, or is different for you because you feel that this is sort of like a more of a transitional phase, to I mean, those are my words, not yours, but um yeah, so how does what does death sort of mean to you?
Yeah. So I think in addressing that, I'd note that the title of part 4 is Extending Grace. And as we listened to it just now, I remembered that this was darkest days of the pandemic project, mostly darkest days that I experienced. You know, the birds were, you notice the birds singing in the background
Yes.
that sort of come up and down. You know, as the pandemic lockdown happened, there was suddenly less traffic around, you know, my part of the Bronx, where I live, and you hear the birds again, you know, much more easily. And then the other thing you heard was there's a siren in the background right now. I don't know if you're hearing that, but so many sirens, you know, so many sirens.
There's a train passing by where I live. I don't know if you can hear it, but
Yeah.
this is part of the Erstwhile. Let's do
Yeah,
it.
yeah. But yeah, so I mean, both of those, right? So that was an incredibly, for me, a powerfully poignant juxtaposition of sounds of life and sounds of death, potentially, especially in you know, when COVID hit the South Bronx in April of 2020, you know, the rate of the death rate was pretty scary at that point, you know.
Yeah.
If you got hospitalized, if you needed an ambulance, you know. And yeah, and so for me, yes, basically, I think to the first questions that you asked, my foundational response to like living to the Jesus on my cross is, wow, this is pretty gracious. Just if it is, because the way I think about belief is that it does mean I don't know. If I know something by faith, I don't know it the same way I know something that's expressed in binary code, you know, or
math or something like
yeah,
that.
math, yeah, things that are known through objective measurement. But so I find great joy in a very real hope in the resurrection in Christ. And I find, and that only became accessible and meaningful for me after I embraced this idea that Jesus on the cross is God's eternal embrace of humanity, and that embrace is ongoing, and it's available to everybody, and it doesn't stop at death, right? So that, for some Christians, is the heresy of universal salvation.
Mhm.
But for others, it's the gospel. But yeah, I think of that. I don't think of that. It don't seem gracious to me if it's based on performing the right thoughts in your brain during your life, or at least in the last moment before your brain stops working, you know. It's that embrace is for everyone and for all time, and it's on the cross, right? So there's life and death are dancing, you know, together always. And I in this project, I want to be inviting anybody to a party that's or a very emo party that's like in a church basement, maybe, right? But certainly it's in the universe of the God of the Bible. And the characters have different relationships with that universe, but and that God. But I also this is a piece where I hope that it's, on the one hand, creating a safe space where a person who doesn't have a relationship with the Bible or with the God of the Bible feels comfortable, feels welcome, right? And feels like, okay, I can be in a space with where there's a dialogue that includes Christian viewpoints, right? And I'm safe there. I'm fine, you know? And I also wanted it to, so there's definitely a Christian frame in the sort of hope that's being grasped for, right? Like it opens with some text that is based on a beautiful gospel song, right? One bright morning when this life is over, I'll fly away. And so that imagery is meaningful for me, and that worship, that practice, that prayer is meaningful for me. And the main reason why that the hope of the resurrection is accessible to me is that I have chosen not to take grace in vain. And I, on my better moments where my anxiety doesn't drown out everything else, you know, I'm overwhelmed with how great being is. And I feel you know, philosophy traditionally has a category of debate of the problem of evil, right? I notice the problem of good. Why are things as beautiful as they are? And for me, that is God is smiling behind that beauty, and I believe, and it's, and but I also want that to be. So I'll name that, and maybe that'll be meaningful for other people. But I also I'm hopefully first just pointing out that beauty, you know, and anybody can hopefully, as the Christmas story says, Mary kept all these things and treasured them in her heart. Hopefully we can treasure that beauty, no matter what your faith frame or doubt frame or critique frame is.
I mean, we're all faith is kind of just it's a part of life. I mean, it's funny that, you know, it's framed in a religious context, but like we all have faith in things, you know, because we just don't know things. And I love what you said. And I love your sort of your philosophical stance there on the problem of evil. There's a problem of good, and it's, you know, it's one of those glass half empty, glass half full type of arguments. You know, it's like you guys are missing the water that's in the cup.
Might have a little poop in it. I don't know. I don't know.
But you're missing out on the water. A little filtration, and
we can filter it. We can do something with this.
Yeah,
it's still a blessing to have the water. that my water with a little bit of poop in it is how I feel about commercial rap.
I was gonna
There's a
ask
lot
you
of
about that actually. Okay, that'll be
yeah.
penultimate question. Yes. So like,
Okay.
because you mentioned that was one of the questions I skipped over it, but since
Yeah.
you touch on it, I mean, I might as well just ask you. The question was, so you mentioned how even brainy rappers
Hmm.
um feel they have to be hard all the time. And this is, you know, I mean, I don't want to name names, but there are many like brilliant
Hmm.
rappers who can write really well, but there's
Hmm.
this thing, and we saw it with sort of the birth of gangster rap, and it's like,
Hmm.
and I mean, at least with gangster rap, like there's kind of a purpose to it, you know.
Hmm. Hmm.
But it has sort of had a foothold on
Hmm.
rap that, you know, you kind of have to be hard, and
Hmm.
you talk about how you know, you don't need to curse, a la Will Smith. And so yeah, what is your opinion about contemporary hip hop? Are there popular rappers you feel don't fit this stereotype?
Mm, mm. Well, oh man. Well, let me first just engage. Yes, of course, right? And the biggest thing that I'd observe is that hip hop is a global phenomenon. And so if we get past um, we decolonize our minds and get past monolingual, there's only one country on earth thinking, you notice that um, I think this, I think the problem of um, this stilted voice, this limitation on what I see as a limitation on expression of basically your one emotion is anger. You know, it's pretty much right. In almost all commercial hip hop in the United States was like, I guess there's sort of anger and mumbling are the two options.
Yeah, it's, there seems to be like,
Two emotions that.
yeah, anger and like a just I don't know, like pride, you know.
Yeah. Oh yeah. 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 But yeah. And but is it? Yeah. So, but if you look the global phenomenon of hip hop, it's meaning driven, you know, and it is about engaging. Um, it is about engaging contemporary social realities, as Felipe Luciano said of salseros. Luciano, when he was a young Lord's radical in the 70s, he said of salsa musicians, we're not asking. He was a radical himself, right? So he says we're not asking them to become Marxist Leninists, but we're just asking our artists to represent the first dimensional reality of our people, right? And so similarly to how, you know, like the conventional or the dialogue that I was hearing, yeah, the conventional dialogue in philosophy is about the problem of evil, and I was looking at the problem of good from the frame of like explain everything philosophy. um the well, Ice Cube's term in response, his way of explaining the what he was writing, right? You know, because and he's an artist, right? He was just a young man, um, straining at the limits of language to vanquish his fears. You know, uh, right? So, as he was writing stuff that would be presented as gangster rap, he called it reality rap, right? Is one frame at least. But so anyhow, what I directly respond to that claim, right? Or the narrator, it's never exactly
Sure.
me, right? But then the primary narrator in the rap section, I'll just do his text, right? he responds to sort of these claims about what fits within reality rap, and questions how much that relates to reality, right? So how much time do real people really spend up in the club? I call it a crisis when our poets don't know how to speak of love. Let me say that again. I call it a crisis when our poets don't know how to speak of love. If your mixtape shaped by how real folk live, it's got to have at least one track appropriate for the kids. I mean, like Elmo could feature on the joint. Like Oprah might say, here's some hip hop that's so grown up, you can share it with your kid. And then it gets into the rap section. Nobody's hard all the time. I wonder why it is, right? So that's sort of that's the preamble to the rap. And then to sort of be critical of myself also, what the narrator does after giving this sermon about how rappers shouldn't just try to show how they're the toughest rapper. The rest of the song, he's trying to show that he's a tough rapper, but he's not very good at it. So that's
But in that, he demonstrates, like, it showing your humanness is showing your humanity is powerful, because it's like, oh, this person is like me, and instead of I think people viewing you as weak, they see you as honest, and there's a certain strength in that. I mean, being hard, feeling that you have to be hard is can be perceived as a weakness as well. Like, there's a certain strength in showing that you aren't good at certain things, that you aren't hard, that you're not this, that you're not that. So I think that's powerful, and certainly we need more role models like that in hip hop. But
and let me just clarify, because this dialogue has come up recently about drill rap, and like I'm not saying that people, I'm not telling anybody what they should do in their creative work. Just, I encourage you to believe that you're free to make choices about what you do with whatever space, whatever bandwidth you have. And part of a reality that, and I'm not questioning, the reality of violence in the United States, and racial injustice and poverty, right? These are realities. I'm just also, pointing out that, I mean, nobody comes into this world alone. I don't know why people say that, right? Nobody gets to the age of majority without some sort of love bridge at some point in your life, and it's very rare also, even if you can't find the love in your life, it's very rare that there was a part of your day where you didn't just like eat breakfast cereal, So why not write a song about the breakfast cereal once and just let that be one of your 20 songs on the mixtape, and all the rest of it is whatever you feel you need to write about. Yeah.
Yeah, you're saying it's not an or, it's an and
Yes.
I was going to say sort of a lot of the things that you said, so I'm glad that you said them. It's like,
Okay.
there's a lot of good music out there, and there's that follows that sort of motif, and there's also a context, as you were alluding to why that music was hard. They came from hard places, and you had to be that way, otherwise people would dominate you. and you had to have a certain attitude about life. So we're definitely not belittling that. And I listen to, a lot of music that can get really aggressive, and sometimes I really, get into it.
Yeah.
Eminem has a lot of like hard songs that are
Yeah.
that have just like one emotion, pissed off. And and there's an appropriate time and place for that. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
so I wanted to give you this opportunity to um to add anything that you haven't already, anything you feel like that we missed, or directions to your socials, your social media uh, accounts, and anything else we haven't touched.
Could be marcosdelaguagua.com. So that's MarcosDelaGua. And yeah, find everything from there. And the Erstwhile Shuffle will be the first thing you see to tap on that site, and you can download and stream from there. And there's also a link to, I think you have to like cut and paste the link, but there's a link to the dance challenge, which you can also find on my YouTube channel or on my Instagram, or I think on my Instagram. Actually, I'm not sure if I saved it permanent on my Instagram. Instagram is confusing to me, but it's for sure on my YouTube and on my TikTok. And so anyhow, if you want to do the dance challenge, you at this point download the track and just be silly and dance to it. To clarify, the the other erstwhileality of the dance is supposedly that it has no start or end point.
Yes.
You're always you're in a spiral of figuring out where the erstwhile part is, and it's very silly. It is just and it's intentionally like dated. It's just the Carlton. You do the Carlton to one side, go like and then 2 counts to do something in between, and then do the Carlton to the other side. And
I think your audio just
something.
your video just kind of
okay,
went out for a second. Try
okay,
again.
so Carlton to one side, 2 counts to boogie, Carlton to the other side, 2 counts to boogie, like that. If you advance, you can do the verse Carlton.
Yeah, so it's a Carlton on one side, improv
Carlton on the other
to
side,
on the other side. The
Yes.
erstwhile is in there.
Yes, but where?
It's all around us. This was fun. Thank you for just being on again with me. And thank you so much for listening.
How much time did real folk ever spend up in the club? I call it a crisis when our poets don't know how to speak of love. If your mixtape's shaped by how real folk live, it's got to have at least one track appropriate for the kids. I mean, like Elmo could feature on the joint. Like Oprah could say, here's some hip-hop that's so grown up, you can share it with your kids. Nobody's hard all the time. I wonder why it is even brainy rappers still claim street status in terms we should not use with our grandmas. How can music be a blessing if we constantly curse prophetic poets manifesting things are sure to get worse? Oh well. Call me a cursed bat rastard, pretend that I'm plastered, strung out by this game of copyrights and masters. I beat a whole board but can't defeat the big boss. I'm always dying, like the Jesus on my cross. I keep spending quarters, losing lives, I lost track. Which ones are the bad guys? My joystick's meant to make us fly. Johnny 5, stay alive. Cause I'm an undercover soul brother, secret agent, proto-pagan, getting deep like Carl Sagan, intellectual intercourse, Jesus freak. without remorse. And my rhymes are nasty, my rhymes are gross. My loved ones call me Marquitos. My rhymes are silly, my rhymes are sick. I combine her anxiety with his panic. My rhymes are nasty, my rhymes are gross. My loved ones call me Marquitos. My rhymes are silly, my rhymes are sick. I combine her anxiety with his panic. Her anxiety and his panic. Her anxiety, his panic. Panic. Entonces, if you're up in the Bronx and you see a dude running with like 2 bags and a suit coat, please remember, don't get in the way of a dude who's running in a suit coat. Ain't nobody desperate like this guy running in a suit coat. He ain't a guy who likes to rush. He'd rather be a slowpoke. He likes to take his time, be well-groomed, dress nice. He runs believing he's running for his life. When he shouts, "Excuse me," don't make him say it twice. I'm probably just late and need the train, but that's what it feels like. I get road rage from walking, high off of talking. I got a calling, don't be caller blocking. So mad that the crazy people laugh at me. So hard up that the homeless help me. So sick, the sinners bless me while the saints caress me. Don't try to stress me. Saved by grace of wealth, don't impress me. And my rhymes are nasty, my rhymes are gross. My loved ones call me Marquitos. My rhymes are silly, my rhymes are sick. I combine her anxiety with his panic. My rhymes are nasty, my rhymes are gross. My loved ones call me Marquitos. My rhymes are silly, my rhymes are sick. I combine her anxiety with his panic. And the erstwhile shuffle. Let's do the erstwhile shuffle. Made by a couple of roommates at home, trying to get free on the ones and the twos and the microphone.
Music for Gymnog Pod, provided by Marcos de la Guagua. Guagua is spelled G-U-A-G-U-A. Art by Seco 1844. Seco is S-E-K-O. My website, which contains news, bios, social media links, a bibliography, a blog, a podcast page, and a press page, is jamesnoguera.com. Noguera is N-O-G-U-E-R-A. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Jimnog. That's J-I-M-N-O-G. Or you can support the show on patreon.com/Jimnog. And thank you for your interest.